The government shutdown is underway as of midnight. It's all over. Can't we just get along?
No, we can't, apparently. That's
Just
the
make
problem.
it all work. Brad Huffman is here with Future Finances to talk a little bit about how that's going to affect us.
Yeah. We've been down this road, so the one good thing is not unprecedented. Now, this is the 17th time in about 40 years we've done it. So
that many?
That many, yes.
Really?
Now, it's been a while. We've had a nice gap here of almost 18 years since 95, 96. But I think we kind of know what to expect, which is why I think we kind of rolled into this without too much panic and fanfare. I think, first of all, everybody thought this was coming. I think for the most part, Vegas odds would have been in favor of a shutdown, so I don't think we're surprised. But I think at this point, we now have to go, what's going to happen if this continues? And I think that's the big issue. I think, first and foremost, if they come to a resolution the next few days, I think it's meaningless. I don't want to belittle the whole issue, but I think for the most part, if they come to a decision, most of us, whether you're a government worker, whether you're an investor, it won't make a difference. I think the bigger issue is this continues. How will we all be impacted? That's when you really have to do a little bit of the planning. From my perspective, I'm an investor. I think most people are on their 401ks and their IRAs. What does this mean? Again, probably not much. Mainly because what we're dealing with here, if you're a federal employee, you're worried about your paycheck. If you're an investor, you're worried about corporate earnings. You're worried about how the overall economy will be impacted. If this shutdown doesn't last very long, the economy probably won't even notice it.
Is there like a 30-day period or something before it really takes effect?
The longest we've seen was 21, and that was in 95, 96.
Okay.
There was a blip in the numbers, but for the most part, from an investor perspective, the market was up at the end of that year.
But we had heard that markets around the world had already started to react to this.
We had seen, now for the most part, the markets have had a great year. So I think this may be just an excuse to pull back a little bit. But within a few percentage points, so really not much. I think that everybody's going to be watching if this continues. If they think the bickering is going to get worse, more aggressive, then the fear begins. Because the worst thing for an investor is uncertainty. If you have no idea what's coming, you're worried. And if we go into that 20, I think if we get past this week, I think the nerves will get a little bit more intense.
Well, what if you're a marshal and you're looking to buy a house soon? What do you
That could be challenging because now you've got a number of, 800,000, about a third of federal workers shut down. So you're going to see slowdowns in anything. So if you're looking for an FHA loan, for example, that could be impacted. If you want to go to a Social Security office, that could be delayed. Now, your benefits should still be coming.
The checks are still coming.
The checks are still coming at this point. But there's a lot of programs. If you want to go, I was in Washington last week. I went to one of the Smithsonian museums. Can't do that today. So vacationers are going to feel it. And certainly the worst off are going to be the federal workers because right now they're not being paid. Now, they may end up getting retro pay, but as a federal worker, if I have to feed my family, I'm nervous, and I'm hoping that this comes to a quick resolution.
If it goes on for a month and you are a federal employee, you lose an entire month's worth. I mean, the way that affects your family budget is just devastating.
Yes, and that would be significant, and that's why I don't believe it will go that long. I don't think anybody wants to allow it. I think they're going to put a Band-Aid on this. I think they're going to say, well, we can't really agree, but let's agree to get something down so we can get the government back up. And then we'll come back to the table in a few months.
So kicking the can.
We are great at kicking. If it were a professional sport, the U.S. would be definitely pro. So, absolutely.
All right, Brad. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Doesn't sound like we have to push the panic button quite yet.
Yeah. Watch out for the debt debate. That's coming up in a few weeks. That's, in my opinion, going to be a bigger deal for most of us because we've never done that. We've never defaulted.
But they downgraded us once.
That's what hurt us in 2011, and it came along with the whole debt debate. And that's where, as an investor, I'm a little bit more anxious. Again, I think they're going to get that can kicked a few months down the road, but I think that's when it's going to get a little bit more intense, at least from the average 401k person's perspective.
Brad Huffman, we appreciate your time this morning.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Alrighty.
And it does tie into a poll that we have out, as a matter of fact, and we wanted to hear from you about the government shutdown. We'd love for you to get online, vote in our web poll at myfox28columbus.com. Now, here's your question. Should you be allowed to recall members of Congress for allowing the federal government shutdown?
Wow, that's a heck of a question.
That is. That's going right for the throat, huh? What do you think? We'll be tracking all those results all throughout the day and see what Central Ohioans feel about this. I know that a lot of people I've talked to have said that, you know what, let's do it at the polls if nowhere else.
Yep, because that's how you speak to these folks. You can find the results of that poll at myfox28columbus.com. It'll be at the bottom of the homepage.